Welcome to week 13 of Explore the Bible. We finally reached the end of this quarter, the last Sunday of May. Here we are in the last Sunday. We're going to be in 2 Thessalonians. We're at the end of the book and looking forward to this, looking forward to what happens this summer as well. So I'm glad you're here, glad you've been watching. Some of you have been with us all the way through, so happy you've done that. Before we dive in, be sure and subscribe to our channel, like, comment. If you got questions, ask those, share it with others. Let's dive in. Now we command you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, to keep away from every brother or sister who is idle and does not live according to the tradition received from us. For you yourselves know how you should imitate us. We were not idle among you. We did not eat anyone's food free of charge. Instead, we labored and toiled, working night and day so that we would not be a burden to any of you. Boy, here is a strong word, and this sets up this entire section for Paul. But as he closes out, warning against being around people that are idle, that are lazy, that know better and don't live the way they ought to live. Man, here's a strong word that he says, keep away from every brother or sister. Okay, he's talking about people within the church, right? People within the church, people who claim to be saved, believers. Every brother or sister who is idle and does not live according to the tradition received from us. We talked about that last week, the teachings and in the basic way. Here's the way a Christian ought to live that everybody knows, right? Stay away from them. Keep away from the one who is idle. Keep away from the one who is idle. Man, that's strong, isn't it? Now, I have a feeling here that what we need to understand is that it's not just that a person took a day off. It's a person who has decided, this is how I'm going to live. This is what I'm going to do. And I don't care what you think about it or what you say, it's what I'm going to do. And I'll tell you what, the truth is that in the last couple of years in the United States, and I think in other places in the world, because of some of the things that happened in the world and with COVID and other stuff, there were a lot of people who became idle, who were forced into idleness, and then adopted idleness as a lifestyle. A lot of people that did that. And a lot of people that were forced kind of away from the body. They had to isolate for some certain amount of time and then just kind of chose isolation. They liked it and they stayed there. Don't allow those people to have influence on your life. You stay away from them so that you don't adopt the way they live, that you don't adopt their decisions become your decisions, right? Because you know how you should, Paul says, you know how you should imitate us. He says, we weren't idle. I wasn't idle when I was around you. I wasn't lazy. Paul even would say he could have, but he did not depend on them for support. He worked. He had a job. He was a tent maker. He did that. Worked day and night so that we wouldn't be a burden. We labored and toiled. Paul said, I earned my own way so that you wouldn't, no one could even try to accuse me of that. Okay, and he says, it's not that we don't have the right to support, but we did it to make ourselves an example to you so that you would imitate us. In fact, when we were with you, this is what we commanded you. If anyone is willing to work, he should not eat. Okay, Paul's not saying that every minister should have a side job, that they should all be bivocational. I'll tell you what, where I work in my association, I've got a lot of bivocational ministers, both pastors and staff ministers and others. And man, many of them feel called to that. They stay in that position because they want to continue that. That was Paul. Paul was a bivocational minister, but Paul also speaks many times other places that you should support the pastor and that he shouldn't have to depend on that. So there's not necessarily a good or a better than. This person's better than that person because they don't have another job or because they do have another job. There's not that value judgment at all. It is that some people God has called to some in one place and other people God has called to another place of service and another way of serving. And these are needed, necessary in some areas more so than others. It's just kind of the way it is. So he's not saying a value judgment about that. But Paul's saying, when I was with you, I could have, but I didn't because I wanted to be an example that you would imitate hard work, that you would see this hard work. And the truth is a lot of People who are vocationally in ministry work really hard. You just don't see it all the time, right? Because it's not out in front. And most of their work is actually done behind the door and not out front on the stage. In fact, he says, when we were with you, this is what we commanded you. If anyone isn't willing to work, you should not eat. Paul says, I told you. He saw this. Maybe it was something in Thessaloniki. Maybe it was something about their culture where there were more people that tended towards that. I don't know. But he said, I made it a point to tell you, if you're not going to work, you don't eat. A lot of people even doubted whether this verse was in the Bible. I think if you ask people if that verse is in the Bible, a lot of people would say, oh, that's not in the Bible. But it is. Paul says, if anyone isn't willing to work, he should not eat. You have to take care of your own. You have to take care of yourself. He says, for we hear there are some among you who are idle. They're not busy, but busybodies. Boy, I don't know what the Greek words are there. I haven't looked at that. But that's a great line, isn't it? Some people are not busy, they're just busybodies. So you need to get busy. Don't be a busybody. Get busy, work. Now we command and exhort such people by the Lord Jesus Christ to work quietly and provide for themselves. But as for you, brothers and sisters, do not grow weary in doing good. There's this temptation to say, well, if they're not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. You know, if they're not going to give their effort, I'm not going to give my effort. I ought to just take that up. I ought to just live like they're living, you know. Paul says, no, you don't go weary in doing good. You're doing the right thing, and you may be frustrated by it. It may frustrate you to see what other people are doing and how they're getting by without doing it, but you do what you are called to do. And it says, and you tell these people, exhort them, command and exhort such people to work quietly and provide for themselves. He says, I'm telling you, and these are strong words, to command and exhort. There comes a time when you have to give that word, and then if they're not going to follow that, then he says you keep away, you stay away. You don't let them become an influence on you. You don't let them become an influence on others, right? And you don't take care of them if they're not willing. If they're able, I mean, I think if we go back here, there is reason for a Christian to say, hey, if you're not able to work, if you're able to work and you're not willing to work, then I'm not going to help you. And if you're not able to work, that's a whole other issue, right? But if you're able to work and you're not willing to work, well, you've got hands and arms and legs and feet and a brain. Take care of yourself. Does it sound harsh? Here's the thing about that. That's much better judged individually than it is corporately, right? It's much easier to look at an individual and say, well, I can tell you're able. And to go one by one and say, I can tell. Instead of to look at a whole population of people and say, well, it looks to me like all of you ought to be able to, so therefore, that's different. And I think that's why help for people is much better given individually by smaller groups, by churches and associations than it is by government. Because it's hard, the government can't do that. They can't look at individuals and make judgments. But boy, that means they just kind of do things all out, right? I don't know, that's as political as I'm going to get today. But anyway, okay. If anyone does not obey our instruction in this letter, take note of that person. Don't associate with him so that he may be ashamed, yet don't consider him as an enemy, but warn him as a brother. I love this, okay? Here's how you deal with that. Here's what you do. Here's Paul saying, here's what you do, okay? You read this, you tell people, here's what Paul says, here's the instruction we have, and if somebody doesn't take our instruction, they don't follow this, you take note of that person. Write their name down, right? Okay, I got that. And you don't associate with them, so they may be ashamed. You turn them out. I don't have time for you. I'm not going to associate with you. We've told you what you need to do. You don't want to do it. Okay, we're done. Okay? But listen, you don't consider them an enemy, but warn him as a brother. I love this because there's this thing, Paul says in Corinth, you treat this person as a non-believer when he's talking about some person that's in deep sin, right? And I think sometimes we think, well, that means you don't ever talk to them anymore and you hate them and you're mean to them. Well, is that how we treat non-believers? No, the way we treat unbelievers is we welcome them into the fellowship, but we don't trust them with the things of the church. We don't trust them with those things that are valuable. We don't put them in places of leadership. We don't honor them. We don't allow them to have a place on a stage. We treat them as a person who doesn't have faith. Well, you don't treat the person as an enemy. You love them as a brother, which means I still love you, but let me tell you, I can't spend time with you. I don't have time to spend with you because you won't do the things that we all know you're supposed to do. You know you're supposed to do it. You know you're obligated to do it, and yet you want me to do this for you. Or you want this place and you want to do that, so we're not going to do that. Now, this is a delicate thing to do, isn't it? I admit that. It's a delicate thing to do, and it's a hard thing to do because we hate having these kinds of conversations, but it is a necessary thing to do if we're going to show love and encourage and exhort others to live as a Christian, to live as they're supposed to live. This is what we do. So, anyway, I hope this helps. It's a challenging passage, a great way to end in this quarter, right? We're looking forward to the summer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of this all spring. Subscribe to the channel, like, comment, share. If you've got questions, ask those. I'll do my best to answer them. We'll see you next time.